Okay, so I have a question here from Last Piscean, who says, "Hi there. I won't ramble about how much of a super fan I am, so I'll just get right to the question." Well, that's nice. There were loads of other really interesting music around during Dubstar's first three albums, and I wondered if there were any other bands you and the band were really into and found inspiring. Also, what was your favourite album of Dubstars? Gosh, okay, other bands were around at the time that we all found inspiring. I don't know. I'm not sure if there was any that we all agreed on. I know that, well, actually, that's not entirely true. All three of us really loved the work of William Orbit, who, of course, is most famous for working with Madonna on the Ray of Light album, but he did a whole load of other amazing music before then. And we met him a few times. I think he and Sarah ended up being quite friendly at some point as well. So William Orbit was something we all had in common. I know in the mid-90s, I was really into, and late 90s, I was really into Boards of Canada. And they made some fantastic albums there. I don't think it was their debut, but the album that, of course, everybody loved at the time was Music Has the Right to Children, which is a classic, absolute classic of electronic music. Who else was around that we loved? Gosh, I don't know. I've mentioned on many occasions how much I enjoyed the Cardigans album Life, and also the first three Massive Attack albums I thought were superb as well. I'm sure there's more, and I'm sure if Chris or Sarah were here, then they would be able to tell you, or probably even remind me what we all like listening to on the tour bus. But, one that was always a perennial favourite was the Cocteau Twins, especially the Heaven and Las Vegas album. What was my favourite Dubstar album? I think Disgraceful is very important. I think that goes without saying. But I think in terms of my favourite, it has to be the first attempt at United States of Being. So, and you can find so many of these songs on the Dubstar archive. I think the reason why I like that the most, or those songs the most, is because that is the moment where we had matured enough to know exactly what we were doing musically, but also we were relaxed enough to just do what came naturally, if you know what I mean. Disgraceful was a bit like that as well, although we were obviously much younger, like nearly 12, 13 years younger. But for Disgraceful, and particularly for Make It Better, we were under a lot of self-imposed pressure to remain successful, I suppose. But come the first attempt at United States of Being, there really was nothing, at least for me, it felt like there was nothing more to prove. So we just relaxed and made, I think, the best music of our career. And I would say after that, actually, that my second favourite would have to be the second attempt at United States of Being, because it kind of followed in a similar pattern. It was just what happens when you make an act out of Sarah Blackwood, Steve Hillier, and Chris Wilkie. So I think really, if I were to rank the albums from my most favourite to least favourite, I think it would be United States of Being number one. That's the top, followed by United States of Being number two, followed by Disgraceful, and then Goodbye, and then Make It Better. And I must also mention that I think that the B-sides that we did through the entire sort of 90s and Make It Better period, I think if that was an album, that would probably be my second favourite. Again, because it was just where we were relaxed and just doing what came naturally. And I think that's how the best music emerges.